Hello everyone, I am here today with an anime recommendation, and this anime is perfect for book lovers, and it is The Ascendance of a Bookworm. This is a series from last year. It was released October 2019. There are 26 episodes to this series, and I guess plus 2 OVAs. I don't know whether or not that was all released. I have been watching the dubbed version on Crunchyroll. You can either watch it subbed or dubbed. The dub is currently still being released, and I discovered this series, I think, through an email from Crunchyroll. And I was like, that series looks like one that I would watch. So I started to watch it. So it is based on a series of light novels, which I think also became a manga, but it tells the story of a young woman from Japan named, see if I get her name right, Watasu Urano, who is a librarian or studying to become a librarian in Japan, and she is killed by being crushed by a pile of books. I don't know if there was an earthquake. It didn't really say anything too in detail in the anime. It's just like part of the opening, which maybe I'll show a clip from here, where she's talking about how much she loves books and how everything that she could want is found within books, and then bam, there's a pile of books crashing down on her. And as she is dying, she makes a wish that in whatever happens in her next life, that she can be surrounded by books.
On the verge of death, I uttered a prayer. Oh God, may my next life once again be filled with all kinds of books.
And then, bam, she wakes up in the body of I believe she's 5 at the beginning of the story, 5-year-old little girl named Mine. When she wakes up, she's very disoriented. There's a woman that comes in to speak to her that has green hair, and she can't understand a word that the woman is saying, but then suddenly her brain takes in all of the memories of her host body. I guess you would call it a host body. So she can suddenly understand the language, and she has memories of who these people are. So she knows that that woman is her mother, and she has an older sister and a father. And it's kind of interesting the fact that she has Mine's memories, but she's also wholly herself. So there's a lot of things that she wants but doesn't have. So this world that she's suddenly reborn into is not very advanced at all. I'm trying to think of how to describe it. It's not really feudalistic, but it's definitely not a modern era world. But it's also kind of interesting because like the place where they live and call a townhouse is a multi-story complex, but it's also just structured out of just like simple woods and stuff. So I don't know, I think it's very interesting that there's kind of this dichotomy about the setting, but she does live in this major city. They're not really that well off, but they're not, I don't know, I guess as horribly poor as they could be. Her father is a guard. Her mother, I think, is a seamstress, if I remember correctly, and her older sister, who I think is about 7 at the opening, I think she's turning 7, she is training to be a seamstress, so she's like studying under her mother. Mine has been unwell, so she's been a very fragile and sick little girl. There will be flashes when Urano knows that or remembers that. It's kind of weird to call her anything other than Mine because she doesn't identify really as anything other than Mine, even though she clearly has those, she's clearly her other self inside of Mine. It's very weird. So anyway, the number one thing that of course Mine wants as soon as she wakes up is a book. And she, even though is fragile and frail and has just gotten over being sick, she gets herself up out of bed and she starts searching the whole house for a book. Like she's tearing apart everything, searching for a book. And she can't find any. And she asks,
I can't find a book anywhere!
and she asks her sister, for one, and her sister just looks at her like, what is wrong with you? And then she starts questioning, oh no, how advanced is this world that I'm living in? And do they have books? Do they have written language? And she does come to find out that they do have books, but they're only for the super wealthy and elite because they cost a fortune, because they do not have a printing press. So everything is written by hand and copied by hand, just like they did in the old days. And of course she's heartbroken by this, because her one goal in life is to be surrounded by books and have books, and she was a librarian, darn it, and she needs her books. And that really becomes like the focus of the series, is her, but her trying to make books and produce books for other people. And so she...
Forget it, I don't care what it takes. I'm gonna get my books if it's the last thing I do. This world won't beat me.
And so she begins a journey to sort of develop different publishing ways. So first she has to find a way to make paper, because the paper at that time that is being used for transcribing books is vellum, which is skin-based. If you guys don't know, that's kind of gross. But skin of animals, usually pelts. Not that you can't create vellum from human skin. Gross. But yes, you can. But most of it was animal skins that you would do. So that's the main paper source. So immediately she starts thinking about a cheap way to make actual paper. And so you'll see her different methods develop and proceed. And it's just interesting. I like the little tidbits of history and like science that you'll also get in there as she's trying to create these things. She also becomes a bit of a entrepreneur, and that because she has these memories of her other world, she develops things like shampoo and I can't remember what else, but little hairpins and stuff. There's just stuff that she knows and begins to develop in this world. And of course those things will be wanted and highly sought after, so it's also a good money-making method for her and her family, which opens more doors for her to get the materials that she wants in order to produce books. So yeah, essentially it starts off a very closed, narrow world for her because of Mind's illness and weak body, which does play into the whole story overall, and you will get to see more of that, but I don't want to give any of that away. That'll be a huge spoiler for the story, but that whole illness does actually come into play throughout the story, and it's major. That's a major factor in the whole story. So to go back, so it starts off very closed. It's her, she's sick, and she has her mother, father, sister, and that's her world. But as she starts to kind of work on making herself healthier, then it starts to increase a little bit. So there's neighborhood kids, especially one in particular she makes friends with pretty early on, and they become really close. So her world expands a little bit more because now there's these kids, and especially him, so she's got a new friend. And then suddenly, as she can expand her world more, there's also the men. I'm trying to think if we would consider it a garrison, but there's other people that her father works with that she begins to make friends with. So her world and her doors just start opening up more and more. And of course, each is taking her closer to the world of books. And what's interesting in seeing that development is because, of course, when she's first thinking about books, it's everything to do with her. You know, she wants that knowledge and that escapism. But I think that as she gets closer to book development and working with other people, it also becomes like what those books can provide to other people. It's no longer just about her, which you would think she would have come to realize that earlier than that, especially in librarianship, but that's okay, I won't get too into that. But there is, you definitely see that door opening up too. That's, hey, these are also things that are of value to other people, and allowing more people to have access to this knowledge and information and entertainment is better for everyone. So you get to see this whole development through this pretty cute story. And I like the animation of the series for the most part. There are times that the eyes bother me a lot. I will make sure I include the eyes. I don't know, like, is it just me? Like, they seem really flat to me and like dead. So every time I see it, I'm like, I am dead inside. Like, the eyes don't really sparkle or hint at the things. I mean, there's some cute animation when mine is thinking about books that I really like, and I think it's really adorable. But then there are some times where I'm just like, those are the deadest eyes I have ever seen in an animation, or pretty close to the deadest eyes. And that would just sort of throw me off, because I'm like, something about this picture is bothering me. And then I realized that it was the eyes. That's too bad. So that's overall my thoughts on it, is that really this is a charming story. I liked how passionate she was about books. I liked seeing her world open. As I said before, this is available on Crunchyroll. You can watch either in subbed or dubbed. So the sub came out quite a while ago. I think it might have even been a simultaneous premiere. I didn't get to watch it until recently. And of course, by the time that I watched it, the dub was being released. So you now have the option of watching it either subbed or dubbed on Crunchyroll. I would say it's a worthwhile series. It's really sweet, especially if you, like me, like books and bookish people, stories about bookish people. Then give Ascendance of a Bookworm a try. I think you will like the story. I do think it's sweet. I think for the most part you'll like the animation as well. If, like me, you're bothered by the eyes, just try not to stare into them. That is it for this video. I'll be back with more anime reviews and recommendations, and maybe even sometimes a reaction video as I watch. I'll see how it goes. It depends on how I feel. But I will definitely be back with more recommendations, for sure. Yeah, that's it. Until next time, bye!
Goodbye.